Hi everybody, it's Mark Puncher from Employer Branding Australia. I'm the CEO and founder here, and we help fantastic imperfect employers attract fantastic imperfect people and keep them engaged and performing. Today I'm going to talk to you about how you measure your employer brand initiatives, effort, strategies. The first thing to say is you must measure. If you do this as a project and nice to have and there's no ROI expected or achieved, then what was the point in the first place? The second thing I want to say to you is ROI is not as hard to achieve as you might think. The key is to understand what you're trying to achieve and what the key measures of success are. Now, what you'll often find if you research measurement of employer brand is you'll find very, very sophisticated stuff, lots of stuff coming from the US and Europe where the markets are quite mature there. And it can be really powerful, but it can be very overwhelming and daunting. And I would argue a lot of it becomes quite campaign focused. So they'll talk about, all the little digital metrics you can track and recall and brand recall and so on. That's useful, and that's particularly useful if you are really immersed in employer branding. You're spending a lot of money, you have internal resource, and you're really at that level of sophistication. But the truth is, for almost every organization in Australia, those things are even the basics underneath are not being delivered as they should. And there's a whole load of stuff that even those who are very sophisticated and doing all the digital metrics, they should be focusing on this as well. And I don't think they are. So what should you focus on? Again, start with what you're trying to achieve. I'm very, very clear. Employer branding can see big ROI and quite accessible ROI on recruitment, of course, and I'm going to talk about that. But I want you to remember as well is that our goal with employer branding is not just to recruit great people, it is to retain those people. It is to keep them engaged and most importantly, getting them performing. So you should really think at the very top line, what am I actually trying to do? Why does the CEO of this organization care about this stuff, or why should they? So you start really simply, we want to attract the people we need when we need them. We need to ensure, importantly, that those people are coming in with the right expectations of what it's going to be like so they don't quit or so they don't quiet quit. We want to ensure that they come in and join us for the right reasons again, so they stay and deliver. So attraction is there. We also want to make sure, obviously, we want to reduce our early attrition. So focus on early attrition reduction. Think about your overall retention, because if you're doing employer branding well, it should extend through to that. And of course, we want to talk about how engaged are our people. Now, another pitfall I see, especially for employer branding practitioners internally, so if you're working for a company doing employer brand, is you can get pulled down that sort of alleyway of, just how much are people engaging with our posts and do people like our posts and things like that. They're just metrics, right? What we actually care about are people engaging in the day-to-day culture of this organization? Are they performing? So go back to your core P&C, people and culture, or HR metrics and KPIs. What are the employee engagement surveys, if you're doing those, telling you? What is the feedback from managers? Are you doing entry interviews for people who've joined you and been with you a short time to find out about their experience? So really, again, have the campaign metrics by all means, but really look at the fundamentals. And then we'll flow it all the way through to sentiment and perspectives from people who are leaving the organization. Essentially, the nirvana of all of this is that people out there in the market that you want to hire in the future know about you, brand awareness. They appreciate you, brand appreciation. I would like to work there, I think. Brand affinity, I really want to work there. To brand advocacy, you should apply to, even people who haven't joined you yet. That's the first thing. We want the market to want to work for us. The next piece is we want candidates who apply to us to have a great experience so that they are inspired to say yes, even if they're offered more money to stay where they are or to go somewhere else. We also want unsuccessful applicants to feel really positive about us and to be advocates for us. And then flowing through the really critical stuff, we want our employees to want to stay. We want them to stay, not for the extra superannuation or for the perks and the benefits. That's part of the offer, but we want them to stay because they feel they belong, because they're connected and they perform. So that's the overall, the philosophy there, but let's talk some specifics. Here are some key metrics that I would be tracking straight away. If we're in the recruitment space, have a real think. Obviously on the conversion, we want to know what is the volume of quality applicants that we're seeing on average per role, of course, but for each role area, what are we seeing and how is that changing? Now, a little tip, even if you're not yet tracking on employer brand, start scoring and screening and tracking that now. So what some people do is they'll say, how many applicants do we shortlist per vacancy? That can be a real issue because sometimes, especially hiring managers, they'll just pick the top 5 that they like the most. We've got a client at the moment that have gone from getting no applications or very few applications for their jobs, but through our recruitment marketing and advertising, the latest role they've advertised, they're expecting 600 once this campaign finishes. Now, the reality is that they're getting more selective over who they're seeing. So be careful about tracking just the number of shortlisted applicants. The biggest thing I do for most employers that we would engage with or be talking to is I would immediately screen out those who are clearly not going to work. If you need a visa and they don't have a visa, of course, you're going to have to screen them out and politely let them know they haven't been successful. But take them out, take out anybody who you know isn't going to be right. And ideally, look at the screenable applicants. Who is worth a screen? That's a great number to track, okay? Because you never know. We've all been there where you think someone, no, maybe not, and then you speak to them, do that 10-minute screening call, and you think, wow, actually, that'd be great. So to look at that screenable number. Before you're looking at that or outside of that, what is the size of our talent community? Maybe you're talent pooling, formally or informally. Maybe you're out there on social media building communities, engagement there. Of course, you want to track those metrics. And of course, around your applications, yeah, you can track your source. You can see where are applicants coming from, where are they finding us, and so on. One great metric is how many employee referrals are we getting? Because that flows back around to employee advocacy. If your employees are referring others to you, that's usually a good sign. So there's a whole lot in there, and that's before you get to the sort of top line metrics of how's our content performing and things like that. That's all just metrics to contribute to the volume of quality applicants when we're hiring and to the engagement of the wider talent market. Beyond that, I'd be looking at your early attrition. What is our desired retention and what is our desired early retention during a period? If you're seeing a lot of people arrive and leave, you've probably got a problem in the employee experience and relating to the manager and the team, but you've also got a problem in how you're recruiting. So really think about those things. And then flowing through, I look at if you can measure time to consistent success or the number of people who are passing probation or how quickly they're passing probation, essentially measuring, are people hitting the ground running and we remove the training wheels and they're delivering. And then all of the cultural metrics that many of you will already track, but really have a look at, are we impacting those cultural metrics, the engagement and satisfaction metrics? Beyond that, there's a whole lot more you can do. You can look at speed of hire and time to hire and cost of hire. Good things to track, but be really careful with that because, the bottom line is it's not just about speeding everything up to ridiculous levels. It may be your time of hire is appropriate. And it's also, rather than saying cost of hire, really have a think about agility, efficiency and effectiveness of hiring. So we have a client in the construction space who key part of their strategy is to use external recruiters, and that can be fantastic for them. So their cost per hire, they're actually investing quite a lot in that. But what they're measuring and valuing a lot more is the quality of hire and the time that they're having to spend doing it and reducing that as much as possible. So there's a whole lot in there for you. So let's bring it back to the start here. You should be measuring, you should be tracking right now. It isn't as hard as you think. If you do nothing else, start counting and scoring applicants. Start at least having how many screenable applicants are we achieving each vacancy campaign that we run. I hope that's been useful to you. If you'd like any further information, do get in touch. We offer as much as we can for free and give all sorts of insights out. So connect with us today. Thanks.